Why has inflation been so high recently? When I hear about inflation, I sort of get the gist. Prices have gone up because the dollar is worth a little less. But how did we get here? And how does inflation affect our daily lives? Blinkist has partnered with the Financial Times to create a whole guide to help us make sense of the US economy. In this episode on inflation, the US managing editor of the Financial Times, Peter Spiegel, and the Financial Times US economic editor, Colby Smith, break down the causes of inflation and its impact on the economy in 2023. Colby Smith explains that inflation is bad not only for individuals, but for businesses and the economy. It means that we as consumers have less purchasing power, and businesses have to toe the line on how much they can raise their prices to keep their doors open, but also not to fend off customers. Peter Spiegel points out that inflation had been fairly limited in the past decade or so, and it wasn't until 2020 that we saw everything change. The COVID-19 pandemic completely disrupted our way of life, and it was the catalyst for an epic economic shift. We were suddenly spending our money in new and different ways. People were stuck at home, so instead of going out to dinner or seeing a movie, they were buying things online. This in turn led to ports being backed up and thousands of shipments were stalled. This scarcity in product made prices skyrocket. The Federal Reserve is responsible for getting inflation under control, and the most influential tool they have at their disposal is by adjusting the federal funds rate. This is the rate that sets borrowing costs across the economy. The higher the federal interest rate, the less likely banks are going to borrow money from each other, which will slow down the economy and thus bring inflation down. But a rising interest rate doesn't increase supply capacity. And this is why we saw the Biden administration try to increase capacity at shipping ports and focus on American manufacturing to raise the economy's productivity. Colby Smith reminds us that the economy struggles to function in a high inflationary environment, which is why the Fed is so laser focused right now on getting inflation down. It's also why it's willing to risk a slightly weaker labor market, with people potentially losing their jobs. And that just underscores how important it is for an economy to have stable prices. For more on inflation, check out the full Financial Times Blinkist guide and make sure not to miss the other 4 episodes that are going to be dropping every Monday.